"I don't know how I'm going to do this," Hannah Collins whispered. Her voice was barely audible beneath the soft electric hum of the pharmacy lights, but to her own ears it sounded too loud, too exposed, like a confession she had accidentally made in public. Lily was heavy against her chest. At 6 years old, her daughter should have been restless, talkative, tugging at displays of candy and asking impossible questions about every shiny object near the checkout counter. Instead, she lay limp in Hannah's arms, her cheek hot against Hannah's collarbone, her small fingers curled weakly into the worn fabric of her mother's coat. The fluorescent bulbs overhead cast a cruel white glare across everything: the plastic baskets, the polished tile floor, the shelves of cough syrup, the security mirror in the corner. Hannah's tired face reflected back at her in fragments. She looked older than 31. She knew that. The dark circles under her eyes had become permanent shadows. Her hair, tied into a loose knot that morning before the daycare called, had slipped free in uneven strands. One sleeve of her coat had a missing button. The hem of Lily's pink sweater was damp from the rain because the bus stop had no shelter, and Hannah had used her own body to block the worst of the wind. She shifted Lily higher on her hip and opened her wallet. There was no drama in the movement. No graceful sadness. Just the familiar mechanical routine of survival. 2 $5 bills. 2 singles. 3 quarters. That was it. $12.75. Hannah counted it once. Then again. Then a third time, because exhaustion made numbers slippery, and because sometimes, when life was cruel enough, the mind tried to invent money where there was none. The total did not change. Behind the counter, the pharmacist scanned the prescription and frowned. Not a sympathetic frown. Not a tired professional frown. The kind of frown people gave when they had already decided the person in front of them was a problem. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, though he did not sound sorry. "This medication isn't covered under your plan." Hannah blinked. It was covered last month. He clicked something on the screen. Looks like the formulary changed. The what? The list of approved medications. Hannah stared at him, trying to force her mind to move through the fog. She had spent 40 minutes on the phone with the pediatric clinic that morning, another 27 minutes on hold with insurance, and nearly an hour getting across town because the first bus had broken down 3 stops from the daycare. She had not eaten since 6 in the morning. The coffee in her travel mug had gone cold before noon. "She has bronchitis," Hannah said carefully. "The doctor said she needs this one because the cheaper one upset her stomach last time." The pharmacist's expression did not change. "That may be true, but your insurance rejected it. The cash price is $21.25. Hannah looked down at the money in her hand. "I have $12.75. You're short by $8.50. The number landed with absurd force. $8.50. Not rent. Not a hospital bill. Not the electric balance she had been avoiding because the envelope was stamped final notice in red. $8.50 stood between her child and medicine. Hannah felt heat rise to her face. The woman behind her in line sighed loudly. Someone else muttered, "There's always something." A man holding a bottle of vitamins shifted his weight and glanced at his watch, as if Hannah's poverty was personally delaying his evening. "I can come back," Hannah said, though she did not know how. The pharmacist slid the small white bag slightly away from her side of the counter. "I can hold it until closing." Lily coughed then, a small, rough sound that seemed too big for her thin body. Hannah tightened her arms around her. "Mommy," Lily murmured, eyes half open. "Can we go home?" "In a minute, baby." Her voice broke on the last word. Hannah hated that most of all. Not the money. Not even the embarrassment. The breaking. The way survival slowly stole control of her face, her voice, her dignity. The way she could still show up, still work double shifts, still answer daycare calls, still read bedtime stories with her eyes burning from exhaustion, and somehow one small moment under pharmacy lights could undo her. She opened the coin pocket again, knowing it was empty. A grocery receipt fell out instead. Bread. Bananas. Store-brand soup. Children's fever reducer. She had stood in the aisle yesterday for almost 10 minutes deciding whether to buy soup or laundry detergent. She had chosen soup, then washed Lily's clothes in the sink with dish soap after midnight, hanging them over the shower rod while the radiator knocked through the wall like an old angry man. "I'm sorry," Hannah whispered. She was not sure who she was apologizing to. The pharmacist. The people in line. Her daughter. Herself. The woman behind her clicked her tongue. "If you can't afford it, you shouldn't hold everyone up." Hannah's spine stiffened, but she did not turn around. She had learned that shame grew when fed. She lowered her gaze, trying to make herself smaller, trying to disappear into the bright, sterile space between cough drops and humiliation. Then a man's voice came from behind her. "Add it to mine." The pharmacy went quiet in that particular way public places go quiet when someone with authority speaks, not loudly, not aggressively, but with enough certainty that people instinctively stop moving. Hannah turned. A tall man stood near the end of the aisle, reins still clinging to the shoulders of his tailored navy coat. He looked out of place among discount vitamins and clearance shampoo, not because he was handsome, though he was, in a restrained and severe way, but because everything about him seemed controlled. The straight line of his posture. The calm set of his mouth. The expensive watch beneath his cuff. The gray eyes that had already taken in the entire scene before Hannah even met them. Ethan Blackwell. She knew his face before she knew why. It had appeared on billboards downtown, in business articles left behind on buses, on the local news when Blackwell Enterprises announced another development project or hospital partnership or charitable donation that sounded generous until you looked closely at who was displaced. Hannah's stomach tightened. Of all people. The pharmacist's demeanor changed instantly. "Mr. Blackwell," he said, voice smoother now. "Of course." Hannah felt something sharp and defensive rise through her exhaustion. "No," she said. Ethan looked at her, surprised not by the refusal, but perhaps by the firmness of it. "No," he repeated quietly. "I didn't ask for help. I know. I can figure it out." His gaze flicked to Lily, then back to Hannah. Not pity. That was what kept her from walking away. His eyes held something worse and more complicated than pity. Recognition. Not of her face. Of the situation. "You shouldn't have to figure out medicine for a sick child in front of strangers," he said. Hannah almost laughed, but there was no humor in her. "That's a nice sentence from someone who has probably never stood here counting quarters." A flicker crossed his expression. Pain, maybe. Or guilt. Then it vanished. "You're right," he said. "I haven't." The honesty disarmed her more than a perfect answer would have. Behind them, the woman in line exhaled impatiently. Ethan turned his head just slightly. He did not glare. He did not raise his voice. Yet the woman looked away. He placed his card on the counter. "Run the full prescription," he said. Hannah's hand tightened around her wallet. "I said no. And I heard you." His voice remained low. "I'm not buying your gratitude. I'm paying a pharmacy balance. You can hate me afterward if that helps." That startled her. The pharmacist completed the transaction with sudden efficiency, sliding the bag toward Hannah as though it had never been withheld. She stared at the white paper bag. $8.50. That was what her dignity had been priced at tonight. Lily stirred against her. "Mommy." Hannah took the prescription. "Thank you," she said, but the words came out guarded, almost angry. Ethan seemed to understand. He stepped back, giving her space. For a moment, the hum of the pharmacy seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of what had happened, the public shame, the unexpected intervention, the way this stranger's help had not felt entirely like rescue. It felt like the beginning of a question. And Hannah did not like questions she could not afford to answer. Outside, the rain had slowed to a cold mist. Hannah pulled Lily's hood over her head and looked toward the bus stop across the street. The next bus was due in 18 minutes if the schedule meant anything, which it rarely did after evening rush. Lily's breathing had grown shallow and uneven against her neck. Ethan walked out behind them but did not immediately speak. Hannah sensed him there. That quiet, controlled presence. She hated that part of her felt steadier because of it. "You're taking the bus?" he asked. "Yes. She has a fever." "I know what she has." "I didn't mean, I know exactly what you meant." Hannah turned to him, rain speckling her face. You saw a woman short on money and decided you knew the rest. His jaw tightened. You're right to be careful. I'm not careful. I'm tired. The words left her before she could stop them. Ethan's expression shifted, not with triumph, not with satisfaction, but with a kind of quiet ache that made her look away. A black SUV waited at the curb. The driver stepped out when Ethan glanced toward him. I can take you to urgent care, Ethan said. She's already seen a doctor. When? This morning. And she's worse now. Hannah looked down at Lily. Her daughter's lashes lay dark against her flushed cheeks. Her lips were dry. Every breath seemed to require effort. Fear moved through Hannah slowly at first, then all at once. She had been managing the fear in pieces all day, the daycare call, the clinic appointment, the prescription, the insurance rejection, the bus fare, the missing $8.50. She had not allowed herself to ask the full question. What if Lily was worse than they thought? Ethan saw the answer before she spoke. There's a pediatric emergency clinic 8 blocks from here, he said. Not the hospital unless they send us there. You can sit beside her. My driver's ID is visible. I'll text you the license plate before you get in, if you want to send it to someone. Hannah almost smiled at that despite everything. You think I have someone waiting for that text? Again, the flicker in his face. Guilt, sharper this time. No, he said softly. But you should. The answer landed in a place she kept carefully sealed. Hannah looked at the bus stop. Looked at the SUV. Looked at Lily. Her pride had already cost. Enough today. Fine, she said. Urgent care. That's it. Ethan nodded once. No smile. No victory. He opened the back door but did not touch her. Inside, the car smelled faintly of leather and rain. The seat was warm. A child's seat was not installed, but the driver retrieved a booster from the trunk with professional speed. Hannah noticed. You keep a booster seat in your car? My sister has children, Ethan said. The answer came too quickly. She did not believe all of it. But Lily coughed again, and there was no room for interrogation. Ethan secured the booster while Hannah settled Lily in. His hands were steady, but not practiced in the easy way of someone who did this often. More like someone who had learned once and remembered because remembering mattered. As the SUV pulled into traffic, city lights blurred across the rain-streaked windows. Hannah sat beside Lily, holding her small hand, counting each breath. Ethan sat in the front passenger seat, not beside them. She appreciated that. The silence was not comfortable, but it was respectful. After several minutes, he said, What's her name? Hannah hesitated. Lily. His hand, resting near his knee, curled slightly. How old? 6. He nodded, eyes forward. Hannah watched the back of his head, suspicion returning through the fog of fear. Why are you doing this? He did not answer immediately. Outside, a bus hissed at the curb. A cyclist splashed through a puddle. Neon signs trembled in the wet glass of storefronts. Because I was there, he said finally. That's not an answer. It's the safest one. Hannah studied him. There it was. A hidden door. Men like Ethan Blackwell did not appear in pharmacies by accident and escort strangers to urgent care because they were simply kind. Powerful people always had reasons. Sometimes those reasons were generous. Often they were not. Are you used to giving safe answers? She asked. Yes. At least he was honest about that too. Lily whimpered, and Hannah turned fully toward her daughter, stroking damp hair from her forehead. Almost there, baby. The pediatric urgent care was crowded. Of course it was. The waiting room smelled of disinfectant, wet coats, vending machine coffee, and the sour edge of other people's fear. A toddler cried near the intake desk. A teenage boy held a towel around his bleeding hand. A father bounced a baby against his shoulder while arguing quietly with insurance over the phone. Hannah stood in line with Lily leaning against her side, filling out paperwork on a clipboard balanced against her forearm. Name. Date of birth. Insurance provider. Emergency contact. She stopped there. The blank line seemed bigger than the page. For years, she had written the same name and crossed it out in her mind. Mark Collins. Ex-husband. Lily's father on paper. A man who mailed birthday cards late and child support later, when he remembered or when the court threatened him. A man who had once told Hannah she made life feel like a debt he never agreed to pay. She left the line blank. Ethan sat several chairs away, close enough to help if needed, far enough not to claim a place he had not earned. He had removed his coat. His suit looked expensive but slightly rumpled now, rain darkening one cuff. A nurse called Lily's name. Hannah rose too quickly and swayed. Ethan stood on instinct. "I'm fine," she said. "I didn't say anything." "You were about to." He closed his mouth. In the exam room, Lily's oxygen level was lower than the doctor liked. Not catastrophic. Not yet. But low enough that the room changed. That was how emergencies happened, Hannah thought. Not always with sirens. Sometimes with a doctor's eyebrows drawing together. They gave Lily a breathing treatment. The machine hissed softly while mist filled the little mask over her face. Lily cried at first, frightened by the noise, and Hannah climbed onto the narrow bed beside her, holding her close. "It's okay," Hannah whispered. "Breathe with me. In and out. Like when we smell pancakes, remember?" Lily tried. Ethan remained near the door. Watching. Too still. The doctor asked questions. How long had the cough been present? Any history of asthma? Any hospitalizations? Had she been eating? Drinking? Had there been mold exposure at home? Hannah faltered. Mold? The doctor looked up. Any dampness? Leaks? Old building? Hannah thought of the bathroom ceiling. The dark bloom near the vent she had scrubbed twice with bleach, only for it to return. The landlord's text, "I'll get someone there soon." Soon had become 3 months. "There's been some," Hannah admitted. Ethan's face changed. Not dramatically. But Hannah saw it. A tightening around the eyes. A slow withdrawal inward. The doctor prescribed a stronger treatment plan and recommended observation if Lily did not improve within 2 hours. The nurse handed Hannah another packet of instructions, another list of warning signs, another bill she did not yet know how to pay. When Hannah stepped into the hallway, she found Ethan on the phone near the vending machines. His voice was quiet, controlled. "No, not tomorrow. Pull the file tonight. Riverside units. Building C. I want inspection records, maintenance complaints, tenant reports, all of it." Hannah stopped. Riverside. Her building. Cold moved through her that had nothing to do with the rain. Ethan turned and saw her. The phone lowered slowly. "What did you just say?" she asked. He ended the call. "Hannah," she flinched at her own name in his mouth. "I never told you my last name. It was on the intake form." "And Riverside?" He did not answer fast enough. The hallway seemed to narrow around them. "You know my building." His silence was confirmation. Hannah let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Oh my God. Hannah, I need to explain." "No," her voice sharpened. A nurse glanced over. Hannah lowered it, but the anger remained. "No, you don't get to stand there like some decent stranger if you own the building my daughter got sick in." "I don't personally own, that's worse." He absorbed that. Blackwell Enterprises owned half the city through subsidiaries and management companies with names designed to hide responsibility. Hannah knew because every rent notice came from one company, every maintenance request bounced to another, and no one on the phone ever had authority to fix anything. "How long?" she asked. "How long have your people known about the mold?" "I don't know yet." "Convenient." "It isn't. My daughter is breathing through a machine in there." "I know. You don't know." Her voice trembled now, and she hated. "That too. You paid $8 at a pharmacy and put us in a warm car. That doesn't make you understand what it's like to sleep next to a bucket when the ceiling leaks. It doesn't make you understand choosing between detergent and dinner. It doesn't make you understand waking up at 3 in the morning because your child is coughing and wondering whether calling an ambulance will bankrupt you. Ethan's face had gone pale beneath its controlled exterior. "You're right," he said. The same answer again. But this time it did not help. "Stop saying that like it fixes anything." He looked away for the first time. It was brief, but Hannah saw the fracture. "I signed the acquisition order for Riverside 18 months ago," he said quietly. "It was part of a larger housing portfolio. We were told the repairs were cosmetic. I didn't look deeper. Because people like me live there." His eyes returned to hers. "Because I let myself believe numbers were neutral." The honesty was almost unbearable. Hannah wanted him cruel. Cruel would have been easier. Cruel could be hated cleanly. But guilt complicated anger. And she did not have energy for complicated. A nurse stepped into the hallway. "Miss Collins? Lily is asking for you." Hannah turned immediately. Before going back into the room, she looked at Ethan once more. "Do not follow us home." He nodded. The nod hurt more than resistance would have. For 2 hours, Hannah sat beside Lily as the breathing treatment eased the tightness in her chest. Lily's color improved. Her small hand relaxed in Hannah's palm. At discharge, the nurse handed Hannah paperwork and a warning. "If her breathing worsens overnight, go straight to the ER." Hannah thanked her, folded the papers carefully, and stepped out into the waiting room. Ethan was still there. Sitting alone under a flickering fluorescent light, coat folded over one arm, tie loosened. He stood when he saw them but did not approach. Hannah could have walked past. She wanted to. But Lily was exhausted, and the rain had turned heavy again, and Hannah's anger did not change the fact that her daughter needed warmth more than her mother needed pride. Ethan seemed to know better than to speak first. Hannah stopped several feet away. "One ride," she said. "To my apartment. Nothing else." His throat moved. "All right." The drive back was almost silent. Lily slept, her head tipped against the window, breath easier but still rough. Hannah watched the city pass, the closed laundromat, the pawn shop, the diner where she sometimes picked up weekend shifts, the bus shelters glowing under rain. Ethan did not ask forgiveness. He did not offer a speech. That restraint made him harder to dismiss. When the SUV pulled up in front of Riverside Apartments, Hannah felt the familiar embarrassment of seeing her building through someone else's eyes. The cracked steps. The broken intercom. The lobby light that buzzed and flickered. The trash bins overflowing near the side entrance because pickup had been missed again. Ethan looked at it all. Not with disgust. With recognition of failure. Hannah got out before the driver could open her door. "I can carry her," Ethan said quietly. "I can carry my own daughter." Lily stirred. "Mommy, I'm tired." "I know, baby." Hannah lifted her, though her back screamed and her arms shook. Ethan walked behind them at a distance, carrying the pharmacy bag and discharge papers because Hannah had not stopped him when he took them from the seat. The elevator was broken. Of course it was. A handwritten sign had been taped to the door, "Out of service." Hannah closed her eyes. 3rd floor. Ethan looked at Lily, then at Hannah. This time, he did not offer. He waited. That mattered. Hannah hated that it mattered. After a long second, she said, "Fine." He took Lily carefully, as though she were something sacred and breakable. She mumbled in her sleep but did not wake. Hannah climbed beside him, one hand hovering near Lily's back despite herself. The stairwell smelled of damp concrete and old cigarettes. Someone's music thudded through a wall. On the second landing, water had pooled near a cracked window. Ethan noticed everything. By the time they reached Hannah's apartment, his breathing remained steady, but something in his face looked worse than tired. Hannah unlocked the door. The apartment was small and cold. Not dirty. Hannah worked too. Hard for that. But worn. A couch with a blanket tucked over the torn arm. A small kitchen table stacked with unopened mail, daycare notices, and a grocery receipt weighted down by a chipped mug. A radiator clanking beneath the window. A plastic basin near the bathroom door catching a slow drip from the ceiling. Ethan stepped inside and stopped. Hannah saw the apartment through him and felt shame rise, hot and immediate. Then anger followed. "Don't," she said. He looked at her. "Don't look sorry. I can survive a lot of things, but not another rich person looking sorry in my living room." His jaw tightened. "I was going to ask where to put her." The shame loosened, just slightly. In the bedroom. He carried Lily in and laid her carefully on the narrow bed beneath a faded quilt. Hannah removed her daughter's shoes, checked her temperature, placed the medication on the nightstand, and sat beside her until her breathing settled. When she returned to the main room, Ethan was standing near the kitchen table, staring at the stack of notices. He looked away immediately, as if caught trespassing. Hannah crossed the room and turned the top envelope face down. "Those are private." "I know. I'm sorry. You say that a lot." "Not enough." The words were quiet. She did not know what to do with them. For the first time, the polished man from the pharmacy looked less like a billionaire and more like someone standing at the edge of damage he had helped create. Hannah leaned against the counter, exhausted beyond posture. "Why were you at that pharmacy?" Ethan looked at the floor, then back at her. "My mother used to fill prescriptions there." "Used to?" "She died 2 years ago." The answer softened the air, but Hannah kept her guard. "I'm sorry." He nodded once. "She was sick for a long time. We had every specialist money could buy. Private nurses. Home care. Equipment. Rooms rearranged overnight because someone made a call." His mouth tightened. "And still, I felt helpless." Hannah said nothing. "After she died, I started going there sometimes. I don't know why. Habit. Punishment. Something pathetic." "That doesn't sound pathetic. It is when you own buildings where children breathe mold because repair requests become line items." There it was again. Not apology exactly. Accountability trying to form and not yet knowing how. Hannah folded her arms. "What happens now?" "I inspect Riverside. I move tenants if needed. I fix what should have been fixed. I cover medical costs related to negligence." She laughed once, bitterly. "So the billionaire does fix everything?" "No," Ethan's eyes held hers. "That's the part one want to do because it makes me feel less guilty. The harder part is letting people prove what my company ignored, even if it costs me. Even if it becomes public. Even if I deserve that." Hannah studied him. "You think saying that makes you noble?" "No, good." A faint, humorless breath left him. "Good," he echoed. Lily coughed from the bedroom. Hannah moved instantly. Ethan stayed where he was. When Lily settled again, Hannah returned to find him by the door, coat in hand. "I'll go," he said. "My driver will stay outside for an hour. Not for you to use if you don't want. Just in case her breathing changes." Hannah wanted to refuse. But motherhood was a daily negotiation with pride. "Fine." He opened the door, then paused. "Hannah." She braced. "I'm not asking you to trust me. Smart. I'm asking permission to make the building safe." She looked at him for a long moment. "You don't need my permission to do your job." "No," he said. "But I needed to hear you say that." After he left, Hannah locked the door, then slid the chain into place. She stood there with her hand on the wood, listening to his footsteps fade down the hall. Only then did she realize her hands were shaking. Not from fear. Not entirely. From the terrible exhaustion of being seen. The night did not become peaceful. Real life rarely rewarded vulnerability that quickly. Lily woke twice coughing. Hannah gave medicine at midnight, checked the instructions under the yellow kitchen light, and wrote the time on the back of an envelope so she would not overdose by mistake. At 2:17 a.m., the upstairs neighbor dropped something heavy enough to rattle the ceiling. At 3:04, the radiator hissed and went cold. Hannah sat on the floor beside Lily's bed with a blanket around her shoulders, listening to her daughter breathe. Her phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. "This is Ethan Blackwell. Driver is still outside." No need to respond. She stared at it. Then saved the number under, "Blackwell, do not trust." At 6:12 a.m., daycare called before she could call them. Lily could not return without a doctor's clearance. Hannah thanked the director, hung up, and pressed the heel of her hand against her forehead. Work. She was scheduled at the diner from 10 to 4. If she missed another shift, Claudia might replace her. Not because Claudia was cruel, but because schedules were schedules, and customers did not care if a waitress's child had bronchitis. Hannah opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk. 2 eggs. Leftover rice. A jar of peanut butter. She calculated breakfast, lunch, dinner, rent, medicine, bus fare, the copay that might arrive later, the electricity notice. Survival thinking. The math of not collapsing. At 7:30, someone knocked. Hannah looked through the peephole and saw Ethan. Her first emotion was irritation. Her second was relief, which irritated her more. She opened the door only as far as the chain allowed. "You're early for a landlord inspection." "I brought coffee." "I don't drink charity coffee. It's terrible vending machine coffee from urgent care." "I thought that made it less offensive." Against her will, Hannah almost smiled. "Almost. What do you want?" "To tell you what's happening before strangers show up in your building." That gave her pause. She unlatched the chain. Ethan entered carrying 2 paper cups and a folder. He looked as though he had not slept. His suit was different but no less precise. A faint shadow darkened his jaw. "I pulled the records," he said. Hannah did not take the coffee. "And?" "There were complaints. More than I was told. Leaks. Mold. Heating failures. Elevator outages. Some were closed without verification." Hannah's face went still. "Closed by who?" "The property management contractor." "Your contractor?" "Yes." She appreciated that he did not dodge. "What are you going to do?" "Temporary housing for affected tenants starting today. Independent inspection. Medical expense review. Legal notification." Hannah stared at him. "You're moving people today?" "If they agree." "And what do they have to sign?" His brows drew together. "What?" "To get the help." "What do they sign?" "A waiver." "An NDA." "A promise not to sue." The silence answered before he did. Hannah stepped back. "You brought paperwork." "Hannah, you brought paperwork to my apartment while my daughter is sick." "It's not an NDA." "What is it?" "A temporary relocation agreement. Written by your lawyers." He closed the folder slowly. "Yes." Her laugh was quiet and furious. "You still don't get it." "I'm trying to." "No, you're trying to manage it." "That's different." Ethan looked wounded, and she did not care. Or she cared, and that angered her. "You want to help," she continued. "Then stop arriving with solutions designed by people who have never missed a bus because they were deciding whether to buy medicine. Stop assuming desperate people can read legal language at 8 in the morning while their kids are sick. Stop making help feel like a trap." He stood very still. Then he set the folder on the table and pushed it toward her. "You're right." She looked away. "I told you to stop saying that." "I know." His voice roughened. "But I don't have a better sentence yet." For the first time, his control slipped enough that she saw something raw beneath it. Not performance. Not charm. Shame. He took a breath. "I'll have the agreement rewritten in plain language. No waiver. No confidentiality clause. No release of claims. You can have anyone review it. Legal aid. Tenant board. Whoever you trust. I don't have a lawyer. I'll pay for independent counsel." She gave him a look. "Independent counsel paid by you?" He closed his eyes briefly. "Fair point." The corner of her mouth moved before she could stop it. He saw it. Did not smile. "Smart man." From the bedroom, Lily's small voice called, "Mommy." Hannah went to her. Ethan remained in the kitchen, but Lily saw him through the doorway. "Is that the medicine man?" she asked hoarsely. Hannah glanced back. Ethan's expression changed completely. Not softened in the polished way he had used at the pharmacy. Broken open. A little, Hannah said. Lily blinked at him. Thank you for the medicine. Ethan swallowed. You're welcome, Lily. Mommy says we don't take stuff from strangers. She's right. Are you a stranger? He looked at Hannah before answering. Yes, he said. For now. That was the answer that made Hannah trust him 1 inch. Not because it was sweet. Because it did not steal closeness he had not earned. By noon, the building was full of people in work boots, inspectors, tenant advocates, and irritated residents standing in hallways with folded arms and suspicious faces. Hannah stood among them with Lily bundled against her side. Ethan did not lead the conversation. That surprised everyone. Instead, a woman from a local housing nonprofit explained the relocation process. A city inspector documented damage. Tenants were given written notices in plain language. No one was asked to sign away rights. Mrs. Alvarez from 2B cried when she described the mold behind her grandson's bed. Mr. Dean from the first floor shouted about the elevator and his bad knee. A young mother Hannah had seen in the laundry room held up photos of a leaking ceiling over a crib. Ethan listened. Not like a CEO waiting to speak. Like a man forced to sit inside the human cost of his delegation. Once, his assistant whispered something about press exposure. Ethan's response was quiet but carried. Then we answer publicly. Hannah saw several tenants look at him differently. Not forgiving. But measuring. That evening, Hannah and Lily were moved to a furnished short-term apartment 10 minutes away. Hannah hated every part of accepting it. The clean elevator. The working heat. The fresh towels. The little kitchenette stocked with basics. The bed Lily sank into with a sigh so relieved it nearly broke Hannah. Poverty made comfort suspicious. It made warmth feel temporary. It made every kindness look like a bill that had not arrived yet. Ethan came only to the door. You'll have space here for at least 30 days, he said. At whose discretion? Yours, pending inspection results. She nodded. He handed her a paper. What's that? Contacts. Tenant advocate. City inspector. Legal aid clinic. My office. Number. My direct number. I already saved your direct number. His eyebrow lifted slightly. As what? Blackwell, do not trust. For the first time, he smiled. A real one. Small, tired, and gone quickly. Reasonable. Hannah looked down at the paper. You don't have to keep personally showing up. I know. Then why do you? He looked past her, toward Lily asleep on the couch under a soft blanket. My younger brother died when he was 8, he said. Hannah went quiet. Ethan's voice remained controlled, but barely. Pneumonia. It started as a cough. My father thought the doctor was overreacting. My mother didn't have access to the accounts then. She couldn't pay for the private specialist my father refused to call. He paused. By the time he changed his mind, it was too late. Hannah's anger softened despite herself. Ethan, he shook his head once. I built a life around never being powerless again. Then I became the kind of man who could make other people powerless with a signature. The hallway between them felt suddenly intimate and unbearable. That doesn't make what happened to Lily okay, Hannah said. No, but it explains why you looked like you'd seen a ghost. His eyes met hers. I did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lily coughed in her sleep, and Hannah turned instinctively. When she looked back, Ethan had stepped away. Good night, Hannah. She watched him walk toward the elevator. This time, she did not feel rescued. She felt unsettled. Which was more dangerous? The next week unfolded in fragments. Doctor follow-up. Pharmacy refills. Calls with the daycare. A tense conversation with Claudia at the diner, who sighed and said, just come back when the kids cleared, in a tone that was kinder than the words. A city notice taped to Riverside's front door. Tenants texting updates in a group chat someone named Mold War. Ethan did not disappear, but he also did not crowd her. He sent factual updates. Inspection confirmed hazardous mold in multiple units. Independent review opened. Relocation extended. Medical expenses under review. No pressure. No emotional language. Hannah answered rarely. Still, he appeared at the second tenant meeting, standing in the back while residents spoke. When a lawyer suggested limiting retroactive claims, Ethan cut him off. No, the lawyer blinked. Mr. Blackwell, that exposes the company to consequences, Ethan said. Yes. Hannah looked away before he could catch her watching. Trust did not arrive like lightning. It accumulated in small, inconvenient evidence. A repaired statement. A swallowed defense. A man powerful enough to avoid blame choosing, painfully, not to. But Hannah still did not forgive him. Forgiveness, she believed, was too often demanded from the people who had already paid the highest price. One afternoon, Lily was finally well enough to sit at the small kitchen table with crayons. She drew a picture of 3 people under a big blue umbrella. Who's that? Hannah asked, pointing. Me. You. Medicine Man. Hannah's chest tightened. He's not part of our family, sweetheart. I know. Lily chose a yellow crayon. But he was there when it rained. Children simplified things in ways adults could not survive. That evening, Ethan knocked with takeout soup from a modest deli, not a luxury restaurant. Hannah almost refused until Lily shouted, "Soup," from the table. They ate together awkwardly. Not like a family. Not like lovers. Like 3 people learning the shape of temporary shelter. Ethan sat across from Lily and answered her questions with solemn seriousness. Did he own a castle? No. Did he know any princesses? No. Did he have a dog? No, but he had once had a very judgmental cat. Did he always wear sad suits? At that, Hannah choked on her soup. Ethan looked down at his dark jacket. I'll consider brighter ones. Lily nodded. Blue is okay. I'll remember. After Lily returned to coloring, Hannah carried bowls to the sink. You're good with her, she said, then regretted the softness. Ethan came to stand near the counter, leaving space. I'm not always good with people. That I believe. He looked at her, and there was humor in his eyes, but also fatigue. My sister says I confuse control with care. Your sister sounds smart. She is. She doesn't speak to me much. Hannah turned off the tap. Why? After our mother died, there was a dispute over her care. I thought I knew best because I was paying for everything. My sister thought I was making decisions so I wouldn't have to feel anything. He paused. She was right. There was that sentence again. But this time it did not irritate Hannah. Maybe because he sounded tired of being right too late. Have you apologized? Yes. And? She said apologies are not time machines. Hannah leaned against the counter. I like her. So would I, if she returned my calls. The quiet that followed was not empty. It had weight. Possibility. Danger. Hannah looked toward Lily. I was married, she said. Ethan did not move. Mark. Lily's father. He wasn't evil. That made it harder. He was charming when life was easy and resentful when it wasn't. When Lily got sick as a baby, he said the apartment felt like a hospital and he couldn't breathe there. Her voice grew flat. So he left us to breathe without him. Ethan's expression tightened. I'm sorry. I know. She folded the dish towel. After that, every kind man felt like a bill. Something that would come due later. So if I'm sharp with you, you don't have to explain. I'm not explaining. I'm warning you. His eyes held hers. Understood. Lily looked up from her drawing. Mommy, can Medicine Man come to my school play if I get better? Hannah froze. Ethan froze too. The question sat between them, small and enormous. We'll see, Hannah said. Lily accepted this and returned to coloring. Ethan looked down at his hands. I won't assume. Good. But later, after he left, Hannah found herself imagining him in a school auditorium, sitting too straight among folding chairs, trying not to look moved by children singing off-key. The image hurt. Not because it was sad. Because it was gentle. And gentle things were harder to defend against. 2 weeks later, the story broke. Local tenants displaced after Blackwell property mold findings. There were photos of Riverside. Quotes from residents. A statement from Blackwell Enterprises accepting responsibility and committing funds for repairs, relocation, and medical review. There was also criticism. A lot of it. People online called it a PR move. Too little, too late. Billionaire guilt theater. Some were right. Some were cruel. Some were both. Hannah saw Ethan's face on the news while folding Lily's pajamas. He stood behind a podium, looking composed but not polished. "We failed residents who trusted us with their homes," he said. "I failed to ask questions because the answers were inconvenient. Repairing the buildings is the minimum. Accountability must include listening to the people harmed and accepting oversight beyond our own internal process." The reporters shouted questions. One asked if he had only acted because a sick child was involved. Ethan paused. "Yes," he said. "A child made the failure impossible for me to ignore. That is not a defense. It is an indictment." Hannah sat down slowly. Lily, playing on the rug, looked up. "Is Medicine Man in trouble?" "Yes," Hannah said softly. "A little. Because of us?" "No, baby." Hannah turned off the TV. "Because of choices grown-ups made before us." That night, Ethan did not text. The next day, he did not either. Hannah told herself she was relieved. By the third day, she was angry. Not abandoned. She refused that word. Just angry. On the fourth day, Mrs. Alvarez texted the group chat, "Blackwell at Riverside today. Looks terrible." Hannah should not have gone. She went anyway. Riverside smelled worse after being opened up by inspectors. Plastic sheeting covered several doorways. Workers moved through the halls. Tenants gathered in small clusters, watching with the grim satisfaction of people whose suffering had finally become visible. Ethan stood near the lobby, speaking with the city inspector. He looked exhausted. Truly exhausted. Not handsome tired. Human tired. His coat was open, his hair slightly disordered, a bruise of sleeplessness beneath each eye. When he saw Hannah, something like relief crossed his face before he controlled it. She hated that she noticed. "You disappeared," she said. "I didn't want to make things harder for you." "That's a safe answer." He took the hit. "Yes." They stepped aside near the broken mailboxes. "You should have texted Lily," Hannah said. "She asked if you were mad at us." Pain moved across his face. "I didn't think, no. You didn't." Her voice softened despite the words. Children don't understand corporate scandals. They understand who shows up with soup and then vanishes. Ethan looked down. "You're right." This time, she let him say it. A long silence passed. Then he said, "My sister called." Hannah looked at him. "She said she saw the press conference. She said it was the first time I sounded like someone who had lost something. That sounds like progress. She also said I still looked awful." Hannah's mouth curved. "I like her more every time you mention her." His eyes warmed, briefly. Then the warmth faded. "I don't know how to do this," he said. The confession was quiet enough that only she could hear. "What?" "Help without controlling. Care without buying. Stay without making myself necessary." Hannah absorbed that. Outside, rain tapped against the lobby windows. The same kind of rain as the night at the pharmacy, but softer now. "You start by asking," she said. He nodded slowly. "All right." He looked at her. "May I come to Lily's school play if she still wants me there?" The question moved through Hannah with surprising force. He had asked. Not assumed. Not arranged. Asked. "I'll ask her," Hannah said. "That's fair." "And Ethan?" "Yes. If you come, you sit in the back. No driver blocking the fire lane." No giant flowers. No making it weird. For the first time in days, he almost smiled. I can do that. And wear blue. His smile became real. Blue is okay, he said. Lily's school play was not cinematic in the way wealthy people understood cinema. It was held in a cafeteria that smelled faintly of chicken nuggets and floor cleaner. The stage curtain stuck halfway and had to be pulled by the gym teacher. One child cried before the first song. Another shouted the wrong line with total confidence. Hannah sat in the second row, filming with her phone, chest full of a tenderness so sharp it nearly hurt. Lily stood among the other children wearing paper snowflakes taped to her shirt. She was pale but smiling, her voice small and earnest. Ethan sat in the back. In a dark blue sweater. No suit. No driver visible. No spectacle. Just a man sitting too straight in a folding chair. Watching a little girl sing as if the moment deserved reverence. Afterward, Lily ran to Hannah first. That mattered. Hannah lifted her, laughing as Lily wrapped arms around her neck. Then Lily looked over Hannah's shoulder. You came. Ethan approached slowly, carrying nothing but a small blue paper bag. You said I could. Lily took the bag and found a box of crayons inside. Not expensive. Not extravagant. Just crayons. Mommy, he listened. Hannah looked at Ethan. Yes, she said. He did. Outside, the evening air was cold but dry. Families moved past them toward parked cars and bus stops. A father lifted his son onto his shoulders. A grandmother adjusted a child's scarf. Ordinary love, everywhere, imperfect and alive. Ethan stood beside Hannah, hands in his coat pockets. I have news, he said. Her body tensed automatically. Good or bad? Complicated. Real life, then. He nodded. Riverside repairs will take months. Some tenants want to return. Some don't. The company is setting up a relocation fund with tenant oversight. Not my oversight. Theirs. Hannah watched Lily skip along the sidewalk ahead, supervised by a cluster of parents she knew. And us? You'll have options. Not decisions made for you. She looked at him. Thank you. He seemed more affected by the simple words than by all her anger. You're welcome. They walked slowly. Not touching. Not pretending. After a while, Hannah said, I still don't forgive everything. I know. I still don't fully trust you. I know. But Lily does. His voice lowered. That frightens me. Good. He looked at her then, and in his expression she saw the man from the pharmacy, the man from the urgent care hallway, the man behind the podium, the man trying clumsily to become better without asking to be praised for it. I don't want to be another person who fails her, he said. Hannah's throat tightened. Then don't make promises when you're emotional. He breathed out once. Okay. Make choices when it's inconvenient. I can try. She shook her head. Try is what people say when they want credit before the work. He absorbed that. Then nodded. I'll do the work. The words were not romantic. That was why. They mattered. Lily ran back to them, breathless and bright-eyed. Can we get soup? Hannah looked at Ethan. He looked at Hannah. No one moved too fast. No one claimed too much. Finally Hannah said, we can get soup. Lily cheered. Ethan opened the door of the small deli on the corner, not with grand elegance, but with ordinary care. Hannah stepped inside with her daughter, feeling warmth wash over her face, smelling broth, bread, coffee, wet wool, winter air. She was still tired. Still afraid of bills. Still carrying old wounds no rich man could erase. Ethan was still guilty. Still learning. Still powerful in ways that could hurt if he forgot humility. Nothing had been magically healed. But as they sat together in a corner booth, Lily coloring with her new crayons, Ethan listening more than speaking, Hannah letting herself eat while the soup was still hot, something quiet shifted. Not rescue. Not a fairy tale. A beginning. Fragile. Uneven. Earned one small act at a time. Outside, the city kept moving, indifferent and bright. Inside, beneath soft yellow lights, Hannah watched her daughter laugh at something Ethan said, and felt the ache of hope open carefully in her chest. It did not erase the pain. It simply made room beside it. And for tonight, that was enough.